Hi, it's Dan. Before we begin, I just want you to be aware that there are a lot of swear words in this episode. So if you are listening near small children, you may want to take care. Okay, on with the show.
And at that point, we were always making a movie. I had been making a movie and raised millions of dollars prior to that, probably for the 10 years prior to that, for the straight 10 years. So I was always making it, but I never made it.
This is filmmaker G. Malik Linton, and I really love what he says here. He's talking about making his first movie and how he's been making it for years, but now he's actually about to shoot it. Call action, roll film, and how going from pre-production to actual production are very different things. But G has been working on this for years, literally years getting it ready. Then, the night before, he's talking to one of the producers, and
she said, listen, soak in this moment because I know you're pretty confident, but you've never felt what directing is like. You have no clue. And she said, it's a whirlwind. And I didn't really know what she meant. I didn't understand what she meant. I really didn't. So the next morning, we were in Washington Heights at a park up there in the city.
That's New York City.
And I was there early. I think I got there like 5 o'clock, and we started at 7 o'clock. So I'm just relaxing in the park, chilling out, relaxing. And then I think at like 6:30, it started. And I remember they called me over. And then for the next month, all I heard was, G. You know, it was like, I was like, what the fuck? So no, because they can't do anything. Nothing can happen unless the director figures out what's happening. What color should the cup be? Where should this be? You know, what angle? It's just like, oh my God. It was like, it didn't stop. So that I was not expecting at all.
My name is Dan Delgado, and in this episode, we're taking a look at the directorial debut of G. Malik Linton, a debut that featured Keanu Reeves and Ana de Armas in a movie you've likely never heard of, at least not his version. And all of those questions that he had to deal with, those endless decisions, that whirlwind, as the producer put it, that would be the easy part. Welcome to the industry. Two things you should know about G. Malik Linton to help you understand this story. One is that G is a very big guy. And two, he's also a very smart guy.
I went to school for physics. That's my first thing. Okay, so then I traversed out of that and I had a professor in school tell us, you should take 1 year off because, when you're in physics, you're going pretty much straight through to academia. And I had one professor that said, try doing something else before you commit the rest of your life to physics because, you don't really get out of it. So you come in from the physics mindset, you have a bravado and a confidence, I think, that is a little narcissistic possibly, okay? So it makes you feel smarter than everybody else. It makes you feel extremely smarter than everyone else. So it places a lot of things in context. I'm a big guy, super smart in my mind. So I didn't have a lot of innate fear of the unexpected at that point.
Keep that in mind about G. In almost every room he goes into, he's not only the biggest guy, but he's also the smartest guy. And he knows it. G winds up working in the industry behind the scenes and has an eye towards directing. He does come close to getting a film made with Danny Glover, but that falls apart at the 11th hour once Glover became persona non grata after he was criticized for his friendship with then Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. That doesn't stop G. He pivots and he has a new idea for a movie. It's called Daughter of God. It's a movie that's a little hard to describe, but I'll try. Daughter of God is a semi-surreal film about a Latina woman, that's a then unknown Ana de Armas, who lives in Washington Heights, New York, with her in-laws while her husband is deployed overseas. She goes through a traumatic event and begins to have strange visions. This main plot dovetails with a subplot about a New York police detective. Now that's Keanu Reeves, investigating the murder of his crooked partner. And there's some familiar faces in the supporting cast, like Mira Sorvino and Christopher McDonald. So where did this idea come from?
I'm a big dude, and I often wonder what it's like to be like a child. I know when I was a child, I wasn't, I couldn't take care of myself. So that's the only memory I can have is being a child but I was a very aggressive child, or a woman. And it's like, I always wonder what it's like to not, there's that fringe of society, and I should not even say fringe, it's the largest segment of society where they have to be kept safe. I wanted to sort of see a dynamic where, prior to this film, I was doing a film with Danny Glover, actually, and it was the opposite. It was called Razor. So it was a young man who had done some stuff, and he ended up in prison for like 50 years, and he came out, but he was a very aggressive guy who could take care of himself. This one was a different vein than that. It was sort of like the opposite of that, of seeing how a vulnerable person deals with, very, very harsh predicaments.
And when he's shooting Daughter of God,
you get this sort of wave of excitement. I had every agency reaching out to me. At that point, I had a big attorney now who decided to rep me from their agency. So I'm getting calls from agents that would never talk to me in the past. I'm getting all these calls, and everyone's interested in me. This is like while I'm shooting and right after I'm shooting.
So let's skip ahead. We already know that G is going to make his movie. And yes, he gets asked lots of questions. But as it turns out, making a movie...
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Because, again, I had been doing this for so long that for me, I was overly happy. I was so happy. As a matter of fact, I didn't know all the systems. So one of the first things I did wrong was pretty soon, I think probably it was like day 2 or day 3, we're having lunchtime, and I went and I sat with the extras because I was so happy. I'm so happy doing this movie, but they weren't talking to me. I'm like, what? These guys are really quiet. And then I got reported from somebody. One of the extras reported me for like invading their lunchtime and shit. And I was like, yeah. So one of the producers was like, yeah, no, they don't know what you're doing. Directors don't do that shit. So they don't know if you're like, trying to troll them or whatever. They don't intimidate them. They don't know what, they just want to have lunch.
Other than a little awkwardness with the extras, the shoot goes well. You heard the man. It was a lot of fun. And there's a trio that's driving this project forward. There's G, his producing partner, Robin Gerland, and there's Keanu Reeves, who is also producing as well. It's a nice working trio. And since this is an indie film, G has a very specific rule for himself that he feels he can uphold. And that is...
even though I'm a nobody, I'm still good at turning shit down. So I had rules in place for myself. I'm going to have final cut.
Ah, yes. Final cut. The guarantee the director wants most that says that your version of the movie is the version of the movie. That's final cut. Then, about 2 weeks into production, something happens. An emergency meeting is called. The trio responds, though G's mind is probably still on set working things out.
All I know is that I'm not paying attention to whatever they're talking about because I'm busy. So whatever they're saying, I'm not listening. All I know is at the end of whatever they said, I had to sign off on something. And they said to me, listen, don't worry, you still have your final cut. And that's all I heard was I still have my final cut. But that's what I didn't have. I didn't have my final cut. That's what I had signed away. I signed away my final. So apparently they needed money. We needed money at one point. So it's funny because I had been hustling for so long that it was easy for me to raise money at that point. Super, super easy. And I had an investor to come in for the entire amount, and the budget wasn't small, so I had somebody come in for the entire amount. And Keanu and his producing partner said, no, we have other people involved. What happens is, they're playing a lot of like Russian roulette with this money, whatever. So they didn't have the exact amount of money that they needed, and then they're sort of playing catch up while we're in production to get loans and this and that. And then this was one of the loans. This was one of the moments when I guess they ran out of money, or they were expecting money and it didn't come right away. So I had to sign away, but I didn't know I signed away my final cut. Actually, I didn't know until the edit.
Until the edit. This is where things really take a turn for Daughter of God. It's at a screening. Who's there? All of the investors, producers, people from Lionsgate who's distributing the film. And the screening goes well. It's not off the charts, but it's fine. There's reshoots, and it's still very much a work in progress, but keep in mind, in case you didn't get this from my terrible summary at the beginning, but Daughter of God is a weird movie. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just not a standard film.
Executives, they had no clue what they were watching at all. They had no clue what they were, because they had never read the screenplay. The lead executive producer, on his way to coming back to New York for the reshoots. So now this is after filming. he was joking with me in person. He was like, "Oh man, I finally got to read the script," and I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you finally got to read the script?" He's like, "I just read it on the way from LA." I'm like, "But we shot this shit 3 months ago. What do you mean you just read the script?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just read it. This is great, G." And I'm like, it didn't make any sense to me because he's the one that was selling the movie. So I'm like, "How are you selling the movie?"
What a question. He's already made the movie, and now one of the executive producers is telling him that he finally got around to reading the script. So you've heard my summary. How do you think they'd want to sell this film?
So he's selling a certain thing a certain way. So he sold to Lionsgate a Keanu Reeves cop thriller, and that's what they thought they bought.
But that's not what Daughter of God is. And yes, this movie does have Keanu Reeves, and yes, he is playing a cop, but it is most definitely not a cop thriller. It's a surreal, symbolic story about trauma. So imagine you're running a studio, and you bought what you thought was a cop thriller starring Keanu Reeves, but instead you got some sort of art house version of The Sixth Sense, and Keanu is in a supporting role. What would you do? Well, in the industry, there's always an answer to questions like this, and it usually involves a meeting.
So the day this happens, my partner is a white woman. She's a small Jewish woman, well up at the time, but it was a backstabby sort of scenario because she knew what happened and I didn't know. And also, I was acting horribly to her the entire shoot. For some reason, I just didn't like her during the shoot, so I wasn't very nice. I don't know why. It wasn't her fault. It was me. So this day it was like her way of being like, "F you, guess what? You don't even have final cut." And I don't cry. I'm not a crier in real life usually. And I cried. My eyes started watering because I couldn't say anything. I refused because I felt like anything I said is gonna be big black dude freaks out. So I couldn't say shit. I just was like sitting there in this couch, and everyone was really nice because everyone felt bad. And it was funny because I didn't know about it until like midway through the day. Everyone was acting very weird, but I didn't know. And I'm like, "Hey, let's do this, let's do that." And everyone was like, "Oh, let's just wait." And I'm like, "Fuck, everyone's waiting for." So that's when I found out.
G has lost his final cut, which means he's basically cut out of the movie. And Daughter of God, this surreal, trauma-based film, is now on its way to becoming a Keanu Reeves cop thriller through the magic of editing. Oh, and that title. We got to get rid of that. We're not calling it Daughter of God anymore. What does that even mean? It's now called Exposed.
Thank God I was in the Directors Guild at that point. So the DGA was wonderful at really supporting the director. So I said from day one, I'm off this fucking movie, and I was a dick. I was like, I'm done. I'm not coming ever again. I had the studio calling me, I had everybody calling me, and I said, no, I'm not involved anymore.
And here's how not involved he's going to be. He's going to take his name off the movie. Now, mind you, this is his first film, and he wrote it, and he shot it, and now he wants to distance himself from it. So much that he's going to take his name off. His first movie.
Which, now that's when things got hostile. Until that point, it was like, oh, director doesn't like the movie, who gives a fuck? But when that happened, then things turned into like a whole nother thing, because now I didn't have any contractual obligation any longer to be involved in the press. They started freaking out. They had, put $7 million. At that point, it was even more. It was like $12 million apparently at that point.
Now understand, G doesn't want to be out of the movie. In fact, he offers to buy it back. He offers $12 million. Lionsgate, not thinking he can do it, gives him 5 days to come up with the $12 million. And G raises it. He raises it in 3 days. He's ready to buy it back. They're ready to sell it to him. But as it turns out, one of the producers had already sold some of the rights, and he couldn't get them back. So as it turns out, Lionsgate was only licensing it. Okay, so maybe at this point, you're wondering, what does Keanu have to say about all of this? After all, he's not just acting in the film, he's producing as well.
I was irritated with him because I'm like, we're team, and you're like this mega actor. Do your shit, bro. Like, fucking do your stuff. Don't let people take advantage of us. I would give him these pep talks because he's an interesting fellow. You know what I'm saying? It seems like he doesn't realize how fantastic his image is and how big he is. So I would be like his pep talk. I'd be like, bro, do you know who you are? You're fucking Keanu Reeves. You could go in there and tell him this shit, that shit. And he'd be like, gee, I don't know. I'm like, fuck yeah, you could do it. I was like his cheerleader all the time. Very encouraging to him. And he's just like, he's unusually humble. Like, it's a bizarre thing. He's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't. I'm like, bro, you can do all things. You're fucking Keanu. There's a whole meme about you, bro. So when things didn't work out, I was scathing.
Okay, so now you know. Keanu Reeves is quite possibly too nice for his own good. What a shock. But as it turns out, even though he's too nice for his own good, he does do something very instrumental.
This is where Keanu became like forever indebted to him. Forever. And when I'm upset with a guy, man, it's no good. I said shit to him, the poor guy. He's never heard the shit that no one's ever spoken to the poor guy like this. I tell you that, ever. But even then, he was always sweet to me. He was always very good to me. So one day, after one of my tirades, this is during the edit when I sort of backed away. He came into New York. He actually came in to let me know that, bro, like, you know, we have to give the edit to someone else. And he did it in a very nice way, but I kind of got upset. So he ended up. So one day I'm having a tirade, and I'm like, bro, we could do this. And I'm not wasn't even a tirade. I was just giving him one of the pep talks interspersed with dissing him. You know. So he's like, bro, listen, I tell you what. So I couldn't take the edit. I could not physically take the cut. That would be stealing, and then no one would ever be able to watch what I did. If you ever wonder how it's able to be watched, it's because I never stole it. So he said to me, he was like, you know what? Why don't you just get the movie, come into the city. I was in Brooklyn. He goes, why don't you come into the city and just get the cut and then work on it with the editor, and we'll make it like, you know, it'll be like your own, even if it doesn't work out, it'll be like your own home movie. You can do whatever you want with it.
G calls one of the editors who worked on it. Turns out the guy was living around the corner from G in Brooklyn. And in just a few minutes' time, G has gone to this guy's house and gotten the hard drive that has the movie on it. Now he can edit it on his own, if for no other reason than his own sanity.
And as I get it, I'm walking back, and Keanu calls me. He's like, bro, did you get the movie? And I'm like, hey, did you get the hard drive? I'm like, yeah, I got it. And it's like his heart dropped. Because at that point, he was, you know, he had moments of like giving in to me, and he'd come to his senses. So he had come to his senses. He's going to be like, bro, you can't do that shit. And he was like, you got it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, how did you do that? I just spoke to you. I'm like, the dude lived around the corner from me. What are the chances? And at that point, I already had it. So he was like, oh, all right, well, you know, just good luck. Just do it. So it was that momentary lapse in his armor that allowed me to be able to make this, and I appreciate him for that.
G had raised enough money to hire his own editor in Paris and cut a version of the movie he can at least live with.
It was screened in Europe a lot. I had a few screenings in Europe, in Paris. It sort of created its own traction, even with the mistakes on it. Of course, it's not a complete edit, so the music is not what I would have used. The color correcting is okay, but it's not, you know, totally fluid. And then the special scene with the train, we had to mock that up. But it became sort of what I like about it is that it turned into I never talk about it. So anyone who finds out about it, they do it on their own, and it sort of created its own little online mythos in a way, where people would find it, and then I'd see people online saying, "Oh, I can't tell you where to get it," but if you know, and they're like leaving breadcrumbs around for it, and you know, people would reach out to me. I rarely would respond. It just became funny to see people to appreciate it. So when somebody would have a screening, I went to the screenings initially. They became really important because there was always a reason for the screening. And it was usually somebody who was affected by such a thing, or when the screening happened, there were people that were affected by such a thing. So it became a very cathartic and wonderful payoff to see how it affected people that this is really about.
I should probably tell you that Exposed, the official studio version of Daughter of God, wound up grossing $269,000. All of it internationally, since in the United States, it was a straight-to-video/streaming release. Currently, it has an 8% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so you may be wondering now, What is the difference between G's movie, Daughter of God, and Exposed, the official release, which is credited to Declan Dale? For this, I spoke with James Kenney. James is best known for being the guy who found the original cut of Peter Bogdanovich's final film, Squirrels to the Nuts. We did an episode about it. He's even got that original version that's screened a number of times. And he did something similar here with Daughter of God.
I had found the Peter Bogdanovich film Squirrels to the Nuts and gotten that on its legs, that I think I humorously kind of thought, oh, wait a second, there's another film out there, and the irony of it being a first-time director as opposed to a Legends kind of last film, and I knew he had shown it around, but it wasn't like really available, or I didn't know anything about it.
As we mentioned earlier, G's version did screen in Europe a number of times, and James was able to get it screened here in the United States. So I thought he'd be a perfect person to ask, what's the difference? Well, as it turns out, before he saw Daughter of God, or knew about Daughter of God, he had already seen Exposed.
Exposed doesn't work because it's just so much not... It was never shot to be a 93-minute thriller, in a sense. And so their attempts to cut it into that and make it look like it's a Keanu Reeves film, didn't work. But I was certainly ready to believe it was just a well-intentioned but incompetent director, making a film that was just really, really bad.
And what about G's version, Daughter of God?
It's not that it's a perfect film, but it's a wildly impressive film for a first-time filmmaker, and that Keanu Reeves gets really credit when you realize that the film was never going to get greenlit until he said, hey, I'll take the supporting part.
So what's the difference between them?
You have what is producers trying to make it what is a kitchen sink drama where Ana de Armas, who at that point was not famous at all, is clearly the main character, and they're trying to cut it as much as they can. They take shots of Keanu Reeves. Like they took, I think, almost all the footage they could find of Keanu Reeves and jammed it back into the movie, So and tried to pretend it was more of a, just more of a Ashley Judd type thriller in the advertisements, and then just sort of cut the film to, okay, it's feature length, it's 93 minutes or whatever. Here it is. It's good. And it loses its mystery, it loses its pacing, it changes the chronology in ways, that are just sort of flattening it out and makes it a very flat film.
I personally have seen both versions of this movie and will agree with everything James says about it. Now, if you want to see G's version, you should probably check out his Twitter account. It may give you a clue as to where to look. And one thing that gets me about G is that he's very much upfront about his own failings in this. That his hubris or overconfidence in how to deal with the industry was part of the problem, even though he's the one who got the screws in the end. He doesn't seem to blame anyone, really.
It wasn't really anyone's fault, to be quite honest with you. It was, everyone was sort of stuck in their compartment of what they know how to do. So when they saw the actual film, and there was a mandatory theatrical release because of Keanu, they were like, what the fuck? We didn't buy this movie. We bought another movie.
As of this recording in 2026, Daughter of God is the only film directed by G. Malik Linton. When I spoke to him, he had a number of other things he was working on. But none of those things was a movie. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Industry, presented by the fine folks at Movie Maker. Visit moviemaker.com for more great podcasts, articles, and information about movies. If you love movies, want to know how to make them, or perhaps you already do, then there's something for you at moviemaker.com. This episode was written, edited, and hosted by me, Dan Delgado. Special thanks to G. Malik Linton for telling me his story, and James Kenney, who is now a 2-time industry guest. Way to go, James. Visit James's blog at tremblesighwonder.com and check out his post on Daughter of God. There will be a link to it in the show notes. Music in this episode is from Epidemic Sound. There is also a transcript and links to all sources used for this episode and anything else I could think is relevant at my website, which is industrypodcast.org. While you're there, you can leave me a voicemail or just a regular message, by typing to complain about how long it's been since my last episode. And if you're so inclined, you can even buy me a coffee. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave a 5-star review or a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you can leave a review. You can also read reviews of the industry on Great Pods, one of my favorite places to get information about podcasts. To do that, visit greatpods.co. And no, this is not a paid read. I just like that site a lot. Thank you again for listening to this episode of The Industry. Be good.